Good morning, Patriots. How you doing today? This is Mike the Patriot coming to you live from the downtown metropolis of Lamont, Missouri. It's Friday, which means I'm broadcasting on all the socials. Let's see if I can get kicked off today. There's a lot going on in the news, a lot of stuff breaking. We'll get to it. Got some more Candace Owens stuff. We got some more Russia stuff. We got the pipe bomb stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and we'll see what happens as the day goes on. But this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. The word of the day is brought to us by Marine in the Woods, and as given by the Lord is Isaiah 46, 5 through 13. That's Isaiah 46, 5 through 13. Make sure you crack open the Bible, see what God has for you today. I've got a lot to cram into the busy broadcast day. Ode to Rush Limbaugh. As we start off with the Babylon Bee. Here we go.
Mondami.
Hold on.
Let me mute that.
Mondami moves mayor's office under Children's Hospital. New York. In his first official act as mayor-elect, Zoltan Mondami moved the mayor's office under a children's hospital. The mayor's office has been located at New York City Hall since 1812, but Mondami was determined to relocate it when he learned it wasn't strategically positioned behind human shields. This place does not meet our needs for a headquarters, he said, seemingly unaware that it was not an American practice to line the walls with sick children. Voters were reportedly shocked, I tell you, to learn Mondami had moved his office beneath the children's hospital, but were assured it was perfectly normal and nothing to worry about. This is standard procedure, Mondami said, visibly surprised by everyone's concern. You always put your hideout underneath a place where no one would dare attack. It's a brilliant strategy that has been proven to be effective. Mondami is originally from Uganda, where a foreign terrorist organization known as Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF, operates. They avoid detection by blending into the community, a strategy Mondami says has served him well in his life. Children are my future, he said, detailing his strategy. As long as I'm surrounded by children, no one can touch me. The sicker, the better, he added in a wink. People feel so sorry for them to cause feel too sorry for them to cause any trouble. At Publishing Times, Zoran Mondami had replaced his security detail with small handicapped children. So there you have it. That, my friends, is what you call parody. And the problem is with the parody, it has to have just a little bit of truth in it. Mondami is now facing opposition. This is Jim Solomon reporting on Just the News. This is not parody. A self-declared democratic socialist will now govern New York City, capitalist hub in America and the free world. And Just the News has attained internal plans from the Democratic Socialists of America. Again, this is not satire, on how the NYCDSA branch that Zoltan Mondami belongs to intends to pressure him to inject arguably extreme anti-Israel policies into the management and life of the Big Apple. Mondami, who defeated former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa, I can't say his last name. Y'all know who I'm talking about, the Red Beret guy who had no chance of winning anyway, on Tuesday, has been a longtime DSA member and leader, and he is listed as one of the group's 9 New York State Socialists in office. The DSA helped Mondami win the Democratic primary in June and the majority on Tuesday, but Mondami sought to distance himself from the DSA socialist and revolutionary platform during the mayor's race, something according to Political, the New York City branch a socialist group gave him public cover to do. The Socialists in Office website says that the group of DSA endorse elected officials that work together in New York State legislature to advance socialistic vision for the working class people across our state, and features Mondami. A recently unearthed clip from him in 23 shows Mondami telling DSA National Conference, which he was keynote speaker for, that when the boot of the New York PD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. You're going to find out why Candace Owens loves this guy. Just the News obtained internal planning document from NYCDSA Anti-War Working Group, which shows the group has spent weeks plotting how to pressure the new Mondami administration to carry out their socialist demands, including demands to push anti-Israel agenda in New York City Hall. The document from the group, obtained by Just the News, is titled AWWG Palestine Policy Meaning Agenda Notes, and it contains internal plans of the DSA working group. The document has obtained by Just the News reporter used his real name to RSVP to a AWWG meeting that was listed as open to the public. The reporter was sent a Zoom link to join, and a Google document containing the strategy document produced below was publicly shared in a Zoom chat. The link to the document has since been disabled. Mondani has been supported by the so-called fact checkers and legacy media in denying that he is a communist, but is off to repeat past comments strongly contradict, like repeating from each according to his means, to each according to their needs. Yeah. Mondami he did say that. Mondami is a member of the DSA, but denies that he is a communist. Mondami's campaign did not immediately respond to requests, blah, blah, blah. So here it is. The agenda for Sunday meeting include to review policy demands, draft documents, to assign writer to each policy piece. The apparent anti-Israel demands from Mondami administration for the DSA working group included divest city pension funds from Israeli bonds and security, withdraw city funds from banks that lend money to Israel or do business with Israel, end city contracts with companies that do business with Israel, operate city-run grocery stores free of Israeli products. By the way, the city, he announced yesterday that the city-run grocery stores will not sell alcohol, cigarettes, or lottery tickets, because they're going to be Sharia compliant. Investigate real estate agents housing illegal sales of stolen lands in the West Bank. Evict weapons manufacturers or transporters from the New York City metro area. Divest CUNY endowment and reinstate wrongfully fired professors. Dismantle Eric Adams' New York City Israeli Economic Council. End repossession of demonstrators and SRG and NYPD Strategic Response Group. Remove nonprofit status from charities that raise funds for the IDF. And end New York PD training with IOF. And arrest Netanyahu and active IDF soldiers for war crimes. Let me ask you a question. How the hell does a mayor of New York City arrest IDF soldiers? Thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate it. He says, good morning, Mike and Patriot family. I am a couple days behind and going back there. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to turn it off. That's right. Take a deep breath. So here is the Socialist Party, the Communist Party, basically, in New York City, saying the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. And let me point something out to you. This is something I saw the other day, and I didn't talk about the post, but Donald Trump spoke the other day at the Republican Jewish Conference, or the Jewish Republican Conference. And the usual suspect Republican Jew haters. I'm not a Jew hater. I'm not a Jew hater. I just don't like. We need to stop taking money from AIPAC. It's just AIPAC. I'm not a Jew hater. Yes, you are. If you were upset that Donald Trump spoke at the Republican Jewish Conference, which is not AIPAC, AIPAC is a communist, Marxist, Jewish organization in the United States that raises money for political causes for communist Marxists. You know, like Zoltron. By the way, a bunch of the AIPAC type supporter people voted for Zoltron because they're self-hating Jews. But I digress. Donald Trump showing up at a different organization of Jewish Republicans, not AIPAC, and you getting mad about it means you hate Jews, not just AIPAC. You're a Jew hater, and you need to repent, and you need to read your Bible. I'm just saying. But I digress. I take a deep breath and take a step back. And anybody that disagrees with me and says, no, Jews are evil, then just shut up, because you're proving my point. Ain't that right, Candace Owens? AIPAC is bad not because they're Jews, but because they're a bunch of Marxist communists. Why are Republicans taking money from Marxist communists? I'm way more concerned about the Marxist communists and the jihadis than I am the Jews. I'm just saying. Also in the news today, breaking news, CNBC. First, this is at 9:08 this morning Eastern Standard Time, so 30 minutes ago. Airlines cancel more than 700 U.S. flights as FAA ordered shutdown cuts begin. At least there won't be any chemtrails. U.S. airlines started canceling hundreds of flights on Friday, hours after Federal Aviation Administration ordered the cuts amid the more than a month-long government shutdown. The cuts are ordered as air traffic controllers have missed their paychecks due to government shutdown. Now the longest in U.S. history, air traffic control staff shortages have been disrupting flights at several major U.S. airports, vexing travelers and airline executives alike. The sudden flight cuts this week force airlines to scramble with schedule adjustments and make sure crews are where they need to be despite the last-minute changes. More than 700 U.S. flights were canceled as of 9 a.m. Eastern Time today, according to the aviation data firm Curium. About 3% of all the total scheduled flights in a day. Now, wait, stop. What? 700 is 3%. Do you know how many flights there are over the United States at any one time? Tens of thousands. And all of them are producing noxious gas, destroying our environment. Or something. Anyways, so that's happening right now. So that's fun. And, we got Zoltron trying to hide with the children. It's the children. We do it for the children. Remember? The children. We got Zoltron doing it for the children. Now, let me just remind you, some of you may not know this. What is socialism? Communism versus socialism. 60 years ago, America wasn't so lost, and we knew the difference, but we don't anymore.
What is socialism? All right, let's define it. Socialism is a political concept based upon the principle of government ownership and control of property, the means of production, and the avenues of commerce. But the important thing is, how do the communists define it? And this is where many people are surprised to learn that the communists have an entirely different meaning for the word socialism than the average American has. Did you know that there isn't a single communist country in existence anywhere on Earth? Russia isn't a communist country. Red China isn't. Cuba certainly isn't. These are socialist lands. That's how communist leaders always describe them. You see, according to the teachings of Karl Marx, communism will come to this world only in some future utopian era, when men will have learned to live together in perfect harmony, when they'll no longer be greedy or competitive, when they'll want to share equally with their fellow human beings and have nothing better than anyone else. There'll no longer be any need for police or for government of any kind. And then, he said, the state will wither away. When that happens, said Marx, it will be communism. In the meantime, comrades, whenever we come to power, we shall call it socialism.
The communists know that socialism is communism. And their utopian dreams of where all men will sing together and hold hands, blah, 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 will never, ever, ever, ever happen until Christ returns. Because man is evil by its nature and self-centered. That's why capitalism works. Thank you for that, Tina. I appreciate it. She says, thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time. Well, I appreciate you guys being out there, really do, and especially you, Tina, because you contribute a lot to the chat, so I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, and what she's doing, that's the tip jar down at the bottom, little dollar sign, and it highlights your comment, and you can contribute to the show that way if you so choose to. That's over on Rumble. So that you guys watching on Facebook, you can send stars or whatever. I don't know if that option's available. I don't know if you can do the hyperlink or the hyper, whatever they call it over there on YouTube or not. I don't know how that works. If I'm even, I mean, they don't care over there, so it's all good. Anyways, I just wanted to play that, talk about what's going on, because it is, you know, here's a meme for you. Do you know what they call a cheeseburger in New York City? It's at the bottom there. Squiggly line. Ogbu Snack Bar. That's what they call it. Those of you don't know, the Ogbu Snack Bar. That is a snack bar sponsor of the Patriot Mike Show, opening up in a Middle East country near you, where they're screaming for it. They're shouting all the time. Ogbu Snack Bar. Be opening up in Times Square too. Ogbu Snack Bar. It's got the greatest pulled pork nachos and BLT sandwiches that you can get on the planet. Just helping all the Zoltronites there in DC, because, well, who doesn't want to help a Zoltronite? Right? So here's a little thing about Islam.
2050, Islam is anticipated to be more than 8 million Muslims in America. Christianity will become a minority religion by 2050. If something doesn't fundamentally change, I'm here to tell you, we are the next London Stan. Just look at New York, one of the gayest cities. It went from pride parades to Zahran Mamdani to Muslims by the thousands praying and protesting on the street. It went from strong Christian society to silent passive society to gay liberal society. And now you're watching the Islamization of the West.
Well, at least Islam will take care of the gay folks there in New York City. I believe I can fly. And it's not the flying part that's the problem. It's that sudden stop at the end. That's where the real challenge is. So Zoltron, he's out there doing his thing, but not to be outdone, Candace Owens. Candace Owens has some stuff that she wants to say. Here is Candace Owens on Zoltran Mamdani and why he won. Okay. That's not what I wanted to happen.
Billionaire bucks that were flowing into the anti-Mamdani campaign. He won pretty handily. Despite the billionaire bucks that were flowing into the anti-Mamdani campaign, he won pretty handily against Andrew Cuomo, which like 5 minutes ago, the Republican Party was telling us he was unbelievably corrupt, that he should be in prison. And all of a sudden, it was our duty to get the word out, to get people to vote for Cuomo somehow again. Bill Ackman almost personally ran against Mamdani, right? Bill gave
Democrat.
$1.75 million. Michael Bloomberg also gave money to a Cuomo affiliated super PAC. He gave $8.3 million to stop Mamdani, and it didn't matter. The Airbnb co-founder, Joseph Gebbia, gave $3.1 million. It didn't matter. The Tisch family gave $1.2 million. It didn't matter. Still, Mamdani won. Why? Okay, if we're being honest, he probably won during the first mayoral debate. Okay, just like if I reflect upon 2016, Trump kind of won.
Okay. Let me expand upon what she's saying here. Okay, the first mayoral Democratic primary debate. There are no Republicans on the stage. Zip, zero, nada. No Republicans in the debate that she tries to spin off as why MAGA lost. Just remember, Candace Owens is a never Trumper from the beginning. 2015, when he came down the escalator, she was never Trump, never Trump, never Trump. Still is never Trump.
Never Trump.
In the first Republican debate because he was just kind of saying F you to the establishment, and it was pretty apparent.
The war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. They lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first?
I would visit the Holy Land.
I would go to Israel.
Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel, followed by my 5th trip to Ukraine, 2 of our greatest allies.
My first trip to Israel, my wife's life work in this area means a lot to our family, and it could coincide with my young son Miles' bar mitzvah.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
as a Jewish state?
Notice.
As a state with equal rights.
He won't say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very clear.
His answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No, I'm like.
Just like. This is our country, you guys. I love Israel more. No, I love Israel more. No, I love Israel more. But I guess the bigger, broader question is why didn't MAGA? Why didn't MAGA? Why didn't MAGA do the thing? We've infiltrated MAGA and we told them to do what we want and we wanted them to all make posts, anti-Mamdani posts. The answer is pretty obvious. We don't recognize this MAGA. Okay, MAGA needs a new leader. Like I said, you lost.
MAGA needs a new leader, meaning Donald Trump. The problem is Candace Owens is bold-faced lying right here because she knows the MAGA has nothing to do with this in New York City. Nothing. The only MAGA candidate was the beret guy who got like 9% of the vote. She's lying to you, and she knows it. She just leaves that information out.
Lost the party. MAGA got fractured, not when Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, but when Donald Trump looked at us in our faces and said, Epstein who? That's when it was game over. Because Israel first is a cancer cell. It is a cancer cell, left or right, to everything and everyone that wants to play around with it. It is a radical psychosis that has manifested itself within both parties, despite the billionaire bucks that were flowing.
Tard Feather says, seems like not being a shill for Israel means a lot to New York voters. Yeah. 30% of Jews voted for him. See, the problem is people like Candace Owens, by the way, is the #1 podcast right now, beating out Joe Rogan, beating out Tucker Carlson. She's the #1. Let me make this point here, right here. It isn't this conversation. They want you looking at the Jews. Look how evil and bad those Jews are. Why Islamic Marxist communists are taking over. Did she say anything in that video about Zoltron be an Islamist and wanting Sharia law. Has Candace Owens said anything about any Islam, Sharia law, BS that's infiltrating this country any time? Let me make this as perfectly clear as I can say, and I say this as a man of God. Candace Owens is not a Christian. She is not a Republican. She is not a conservative. She is a commo fascist, propagandist, and borderline Islamist. I don't care. I don't care. You could be mean. You could be mad about that. I said that. If you're a fan of hers, I don't care. And let me tell you something. That Epstein stuff, Donald Trump lost the party when he came out and said that Epstein stuff, that was intentional. Donald Trump does not say things on accident. That was intentional. And you know what it did? It pulled out all the hatred for Donald Trump. Right here at the beginning of his second term, it pulled out all the hatred for Donald Trump because they all, every single one of them, jumped on that. Every single one of them jumped on that. Just to, because they hate Trump. They're, these Thomas Massey's and Rand Paul's and stuff, they were all never Trumpers from the beginning. Oh, they jumped on the Trump bandwagon. Donald Trump said those Epstein files are fake and old news. James Comey's daughter. James Comey, James Comey, his daughter who ran the Southern District of New York for the DOJ, who got fired or quit or lost her job right there at the beginning. She's the one that had the file. Let me say this slowly so the people in the back, the Jew haters in the back, can understand what I'm saying. James Comey's daughter, who ran the case against Epstein, who ran the case against Diddy. She was the prosecutor that didn't charge Diddy with anything that would get him significant jail time. She was the prosecutor when Epstein got hung himself. She was in charge of the area where they hid the Epstein files from Donald Trump's team. She had possession and control of them. And this is why Donald Trump said what he said. James Comey's daughter told Epstein he would walk free if he said Trump was involved in the Epstein crimes. Why does Donald Trump come out and say that that's a bunch of BS? Because it is. And he knew it. And he knew when he said what he said that we would pull out the traitors and turncoats in the Republican Party. We got a troll over there on the YouTube channel. He says that what poor red state did you bully the smart kids in? No. I grew up in a blue state. Dude, you're old news, man. Just listen for a minute. You might learn something. That's what this was all about. That's what this was all about. That Epstein stuff. That comment that he made. Oh, but my friends, the Epstein stuff. These people in Congress screaming, Hakeem Jeffries and Chucky Schumer and Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. None of them want the Epstein stuff to truly come out. They just want it for future aspirations. They just want it to run in 26. And in Epstein, in Marjorie Taylor Greene's case, seeking a higher office than she has now. I know that probably upset some people, and that's okay. It's okay to be upset. It really is. It's fine. You can do that. You're free to do that. But I am convinced more than ever. Well, let me do this one first. So Senator Kennedy introduced a bill into Congress into the Senate for the shutdown to stop senators from being paid while the government was shut down. You remember I played it yesterday. Just in, Senator Rand Paul officially moves to block Senator John Kennedy's measure to withhold congressional members' pay during the shutdown. Rand Paul says he doesn't want to pay less people in a shutdown. He wants to pay more. Listen to this.
With my first bill, which would say members of Congress can't be paid and don't get back pay, even after we end the shutdown. That's called the No Shutdown Paychecks to Politicians Act. I ask a unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of my bill, that bill, which I just described, which is at the desk. I further ask that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Is there a motion? Mr. President, reserving the right to object. I think it's time that instead of closing the government down further, that we begin to open up government. What I will offer is legislation that instead of closing government down further, begins to pay those who are working, pays our soldiers, pays our air traffic controllers, pays everyone who's showing up for work. I think this should become a permanent feature of our government. I think it's disruptive. I think it's unfair. And I think it's wrong that we don't pay the workers that are showing up. But a better way than isolating out different groups and punishing different groups is to actually pay those who are working. And I think we should do this. If we pass this legislation, this would never be a problem again. We're going to run into disagreements in the future. We're going to have times when the government shuts down. But there's no reason that we shouldn't be paying our government workers. So I ask that the Senator modify his request so that instead of the Senate proceeding to the immediate consideration of calendar item 191, that S3012, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to consider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Mr. President.
Would the Senator modify his request?
I will not, Mr. President, and I'd like to explain why. I understand Senator Paul is making a good point. What he's saying is, rather than saying, as I am, that nobody else is being paid, so members of Congress shouldn't be paid, I think what Senator Paul is saying, let's pay everybody. That's what I understand him to be saying. And he wants me to agree to that instead of my bill. What Senator Paul is proposing is Senator Ron Johnson's shutdown, No Shutdown Act that we voted on several times. And I'm for it. I voted for it several times. Here's the problem I have with Senator Paul's proposal of pulling down my bill and going with Senator Johnson's bill. Several reasons. Number one, I'm interested in passing something. I'm not interested in just putting on a show. My bill will pass the House of Representatives, and my bill will be signed by the President. Senator Paul's bill, I can assure you, will not pass the House of Representatives, and President Trump will not sign it. I'm not saying someone's right or somebody's wrong. President Trump does not consider to be Senator Paul to be part of his MAGA agenda, and he will veto it. And then we're right back to square one. So for that reason, I can't substitute his for mine, because his is going to be as dead as fried chicken here in a few days, and mine has a chance to pass. Now, I need some clarification, Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry, if you will. Do I understand that Senator Paul has objected to my bill? Correctly?
The senator from Kentucky asked if you would modify your request.
And his modification, if I might ask, is to substitute his bill for mine.
That is the understanding of the chair.
Okay. I have said I will not substitute his bill for mine.
Objection to the modification is heard.
Okay. Now,
Is there an objection to the original request?
Okay, you're watching a bunch of parliamentary BS where Rand Paul blocks Senator Kennedy, these are both Republicans, bill that would freeze the paychecks. So Rand Paul blocks the bill that would stop him from getting paid while the air traffic controllers that just shut down 700 flights today are not getting paid. I'm pointing this out because there's the usual suspects on the Republican side that always seem to be in the way, like Rand Paul, just like his daddy. Oh yeah. And Didi, I love you. I do. It says this is already debunked 2 days ago. Nice Patriot mythology pushing there. Okay, let me explain to you what Patriot mythology is. Not speculating on whether or not a politician will run for higher office in the future. Patriot mythology is telling me that that there's absolutely no way that you could pick up a phone and call the moon when we have things called radio. And not understanding the technical things about that. That's Patriot mythology. Patriot mythology is Candace Owens. Let me ask it a different way, okay? Raise your hand if you've been following politics longer than last night. That's number one. Number two, raise your hand, people in the audience, if every time a politician is asked if they're running for a higher office before the season really kicks off and they say, no, not considering it at all. How many? No, I don't think I'll be running for governor or senator or president or whatever the case may be. How many? The question you need to ask, as Marjorie Taylor Greene created an exploratory committee. That's the question that needs to be asked. I don't know the answer to the question. But if you see that happening, then you know there's something going on. My point is, Marjorie Taylor Greene is positioning herself, whether she runs or not, she's positioning herself as a more moderate candidate. And the only reason politicians position themselves as a more moderate candidate is to gather a larger voting pool to seek higher office. Whether it's president, governor, senator, I do not know. That is not Patriot mythology. That is speculation based upon what politicians normally do. And when they say things to recant who they were previously, then you have to ask yourself some questions. Why is she doing that? Why is she doing that? And so I'll just bring it to you here. And I know some people really like her, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. But some people, it's my job as a pundit to question politicians, and that's what I'm doing. So here we go.
Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently? My critique is not being focused on America first, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. You know, keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not.
That's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that Donald Trump doing all these tariffs nonstop. Donald Trump has negotiated peace in 8 countries around the world. Donald Trump has brought in billions and billions and billions, if not trillions and trillions, into the United States because of his tariffs and going nonstop around the world negotiating with these nations like Japan just did the other day, like China, like South Korea, to bring businesses back here to the United States of America. I'll play the rest, Dee Dee. Chillax, take a deep breath. I'll play the whole damn thing over again. My point is, she says Donald Trump going around from nation to nation to nation, he needs to focus on domestic policy. Donald Trump's doing what he does best. And let me tell you something else. Marjorie Taylor Greene will be as great a president as George Herbert Walker Bush. I said it. You don't go attack the guy. What's it say? Dance with the one who brung you. You don't go and attack the guy that got you in the office unless you're planning on running against him. Actually, JD or Rubio. Her political strategists are putting her up to this. And since Dee Dee's all mad because I cut it where I cut it, because I can't talk over it because it echoes,
Uninterrupted.
I'll play the whole thing, uninterrupted.
Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently? My critique is not being focused on America first, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's...
Sorry, I'm interrupting it. Pass some damn bills. I'll start it over.
DD.
You know, it'd be great if we
could elect this or select this body of people. Like you get people from different places and it could go up to the Congress or up to the Capitol and they could sit down and they could hammer out ideas and make decisions and balance budgets and that sort of thing. That would be great if we could do. I wonder if, Marjorie, maybe you could make that happen. What do you think?
These politicians.
Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently? My critique is not being focused on America first, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. Keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America first. It's just not. I think domestic policy should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
But it's the president. Does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information. And I think that's why after the election on Tuesday, you saw President Trump come out and react differently, probably because they couldn't keep him siloed. And here's the polls, sir, and this is what people are saying. I think he saw for himself and he's reacted.
It's very interesting.
I don't think that she's actually going to run for president. I think she's going to run for senator or governor. I don't think she's going to run for president this time around. There's some people thinking that might be what she's doing. But she's distancing herself from Q. That's what got her elected. She's distancing herself from Trump. She's distancing herself and moderating herself. Mike says he thinks she's going to be part of the 80 to 90% of Congress that decides they're going to self-deport. Is that what you think, Mike? Here's a little bit of commentary. It says, as a conservative and business owner in the construction industry, and as a realist, I can say we have to do something about labor. And that needs to be a smarter plan than just rounding up every single person and deporting them just like that. Green said on the Tim Dillon Show podcast on Saturday. Oh, Mike says it's 99%. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is now saying we shouldn't deport the 40 million illegal entries in this country during the Biden administration? What? We should deport every darn one of them. Speaking of deporting, I'm totally, completely, 100% out of order. I'm just letting you know. So I don't know where I'm going with the show today. Totally, completely out of order. Did y'all see this video? This video is making its rounds on the media. And the story is that ICE raided a daycare and took a daycare, dragged a daycare worker out into the street and handcuffed her right in front of the children.
Is there a crackling sound? I can't hear it.
I can't hear it.
It isn't on my side.
It isn't on my side.
As I listen to the echo.
Echo.
Okay.
It may be on Rumble's side, and I can't do anything about Rumble. But here is the video of them dragging this poor defenseless little immigrant out of a daycare where she was working hard to take care of the crumb crunchers.
Okay, so that's the video.
I changed something on the settings. Maybe that'll make it better. I don't know. But the truth of the video, so this is Mike Quigley, Representative Mike Quigley, and this is what he said. ICE isn't going after the worst of the worst. This morning they took a preschool teacher without a warrant in front of her children in my district. To which Homeland Security responds, Congressman, you are deliberately misrepresenting the facts. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare, and we're only at this location because the female illegal alien fled inside. Here's the story. Officers attempted to conduct a targeted traffic stop of this female's illegal alien in Colombia, from Colombia. Officers attempted to pull over this vehicle, which was registered to a female illegal alien, with sirens and emergency lights, but the male driver refused to pull the vehicle over. Law enforcement pursued the vehicle before the assailant sped into a shopping plaza where he and the female passenger fled the vehicle, ran into a daycare, and attempted to barricade themselves in the daycare, recklessly endangering the children inside. The illegal alien female was arrested inside the vestibule, not in the school. Upon arrest, she lied about her identity. The vehicle is registered to in her name, though she claims that she did not know the man who was driving the car and just picked him up from a bus stop. Why is he? Anyways, I've seen that on cops before. Facts, including criminality and information on the male assailant, are forthcoming, and we will update the public with more information as soon as possible. So the media has been going around saying that ICE has arrested this illegal person, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene. We shouldn't go around just arresting people willy-nilly. When it's a complete lie. A complete lie. It's like everything else you hear in the media today is a complete and total fabrication. You can't believe any of it ever. Ever. You know, Karine Jean-Pierre. Karine Jean, Joe Biden is the sharpest person that's ever been sharped on the planet. Joe Biden is more smarter than anybody. I have conversations with him every single day, and he's just so smart, knows what's going on, and he's up there. When he's eating his pudding and breakfast, he's just so smart. Oh, when you testify under oath, at the hearings, You then said, I never really talked to him. I never really seen him. I was insulated from him. But in the White House press room, in front of the cameras, you said you talk to him every day and he's perfectly sharp and there's nothing wrong with him. Karine Jean-Pierre. Here she is talking about the media.
Is it harder to trust and be trustworthy of a corporate media right now?
I think you said it, corporate media, right? I mean, there's a change in who owns the media, who gets to decide who speaks on behalf of these networks. And I do believe, now to your question about where we are with the media, I think there's a Trump standard. There's a Trump standard that he's just covered differently. And it is insane. I mean, President Obama said, can you imagine? And so there is a double standard there.
I agree.
She's definitely had injections into her lips. Just saying. But I digress. The media has a double standard when it comes to Trump. Are you insane, woman? Do you just did when you went and had your plastic surgery and your lip implants, got your hair weaved done differently? Did they go into your brain and delete the 4 years of Joe Biden where you were part of his administration? Just delete it? They raided his home and went through his wife's underwear drawer. Well, we're just supposed to believe it. We're just supposed to accept it. Okay, it's fine. The media's corrupt. The media's all after Donald Trump. Breaking news yesterday, and I talked about this already, but we're going to talk about it again. I know the sound is breaking up. Everybody's talking about it. It's not on my end. I can't do anything about it.
Here we go now to Washington. The former House Speaker, leading congressional Democrat Nancy Pelosi, has announced in a video a moment ago that she will not seek re-election. She has represented San Francisco for nearly 40 years. She's 85 years old. The history she has in Washington speaks for itself. She has been a long-range player in the Democratic Party and a person of significant influence this entire time, Dana.
Indeed, and look, you have to hand it to her. This is a woman of great consequence who lived her life in a way that is pioneering in many ways. She was the first woman to do many things. She also was, from their perspective, from the Democrats' perspective, one of the most galvanizing leaders. When she ran the House, she could keep her voters together.
She could.
And she could affect change in that way. She also has a razor-sharp tongue, and she knew politics backwards and forwards. I do think it's interesting that instead of announcing this before Tuesday's election, in one way, you could look at this and say this is her reaction to the message that was sent by young people in America, which is that they want generational change, and they want it now. I think that this probably means that there are more Democratic leaders, especially the older ones, that will do this as well, because the mood in the country right now is that younger Democrats have the upper hand. I will also say I believe this would portend to me a challenge for Senator Chuck Schumer here in New York as he faces election next year.
Could be. A lot of things come to mind. Just this past week, she called Donald Trump vile, said the most vile person on earth, I do believe, was somewhat of the phrase there. And she's gone toe-to-toe with him for several years now, going back to 2017. You think about the State of the Union address, where she ripped up the speech standing up behind his left shoulder. I also think about her time in office when Democrats were pushing on Obamacare. It was a Saturday around 11 o'clock in the morning, and she led a group of Democrats across the lawn of the Capitol building carrying the speaker's gavel. And that was a show of defiance that they were going to go ahead and get this thing done and push it through. And we'll hear from her likely later today, and we'll watch that video. It might be what she considers to be her greatest accomplishment. With regard to her seat in San Francisco, I do not believe that it's not going to flip. It's not going to be contested. It's the 11th CD right now. She first went to Congress in 1987.
Yeah.
I mean, our entire lives, she's been a part of the political process here in.
There was for a long time belief that she would try to set up her daughter to be able to run for her seat, which is funny in the no kings era. But that seat will definitely stay Democrat. Yeah. But what you're going to see, I think she will be the first of a few, maybe more than a handful of older Democrats who say it's time for us to get out of the way.
We had Jared Golden yesterday announced that he's not going to seek re-election. He's not necessarily old. I would not put that in a category, but he's in a district that Donald Trump won by 10 points. Yeah. So you got to think that is, I mean, it's a notch in the Republican category going toward midterms next year. Ton to cover. We could talk about this forever, and we shall in the commercial break.
Okay, we shall.
First, there's this 11 past Air Force One.
Or maybe it has nothing to do with any of that. Or maybe it has to do with this. Credible source just told me that the January 6th pipe bomber was a female Capitol Police officer. I have more information I have no more information except to say that I trust this source 100%. The source has spoken to others. They know her identity. They have no choice but to put this out to. I have no choice but to put this out to protect myself. I didn't ask for this information, but because the source dropped it on me, I have no choice but to report what I was told. It's not safe to go to sleep with secrets. In the end, God wins. And I just want to point this out. This video right here. Many of you have seen this video. But this video is new to a lot of people. This is the pipe bomber walking along, waving. You see the hand go up to a Capitol Police officer. Nancy Pelosi refused the 10,000 National Guard that Donald Trump authorized 3 days before January 6th. Let me back up again. Put my conspiracy hat on. Donald Trump, all through 2020, would announce on a Wednesday that he's going to have a rally on a Friday. And he would, remember, we was all shut down. We were all shut down. Remember that? She denies it. There's a handwritten letter rejecting the National Guard from Mayor Bowser and Nancy Pelosi. She could deny it all she wants. It's written down. Government records are a bummer. So, and he listen. So he'd fly in, announce on Friday I'm having a rally in Walla Walla, Washington. He'd fly into the airport. They'd have the stand set up. The plane would get out. 35,000 people would be sitting there dancing to YMCA. Right? Over and over again, this happens. If you listen to Dan Bongino's podcast, as he is a former Secret Service agent, he would talk about how the president of the United States doesn't fly anywhere in 3 days' notice. No. When the president's going to be somewhere, they have a forward team that goes in there months before. They occupy the high ground. They weld the manhole covers down. There's all kinds of things that they do to secure the position. And the president's schedule is meticulously laid out for security reasons, but they don't announce it until Wednesday of a Friday, right? Except right after Christmas in 2020, Donald Trump said he was going to hold a rally on January 6, 2021 at the Capitol, and that you should come out. So they had 2 weeks. Nancy Pelosi and them had 2 weeks to take advantage of this situation. Donald Trump said, I'll send you the National Guard. They said no. Why? Well, Shirley says, except checking out building rooftops. Well, no, they checked it out. That's all I got to say about that. They knew exactly what that was. Another thing that they do, by the way, it's called denial of vision. I think that's what they call it. Something along that lines. But when they wanted to secure a high-value target, when they want to secure an area, right, they look. Yeah, I know, right? It's falling apart. Well, you know what I could do? I could just turn it around like this. That make you feel better? So they know where the stage is going to be. They look at all the places that you can target the target on the stage. And what they'll do is they'll get a couple cranes and fly a big flag across there. So from that position, you can't see the target. So it's hard to take that shot. They didn't do that in Butler. They didn't. That's just what they do. Why did 5 Capitol Police suicide themselves? That's a great question. That's never been answered. Probably the same reason Epstein did. So Nancy Pelosi turned down. So did Mayor Bowser. Why? Because Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, controls the Capitol Police. Period. Let me say that again, slower for the Jew haters in the back. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, whatever Speaker of the House is there, controls the Capitol Police. You must go into the Capitol. That's where the problem is. That's what they didn't want the National Guard there, because the National Guard would be subject to the chain of command, which is the President of the United States of America. And they would not have allowed the crowds to get that close to the Capitol. They would have surrounded it, put a ring around it, and said, nope, can't come this way. And the patriotic mega supporters would have said, thank you, brother, we won't go there. They would have listened. But instead, standing there at the barricades before Donald Trump finished his speech was all Ray Epps and a group of people who looked at his watch, whispered in the guy's ear, and they took down the barricades and charged into the Capitol area. And then the police officer, the campus police, proceeded to take down all the barricades and said that this area has been declared off limits. So everybody would go. And then they charged everyone for being in the off limits area and sent them into prison for 5 years. But if the National Guard had been there, none of that would have happened, because the National Guard does not answer to Nancy Pelosi or Chucky Schumer. The National Guard answers to the president. And that's why they didn't want them. That's why, let me say this again slower so people understand in the back, all the Jew haters. Nancy Pelosi did not want the National Guard because she had no control over them for the night's events. There's a new story breaking just now. A new story breaking just now out of D.C. Breaking: federal prosecutors open a corruption investigation to Democrat D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Federal prosecutors have opened a corruption investigation to Washington, D.C. Democratic Mayor Muriel Bowser. According to New York Times, the investigation has been underway for several months. Starting right after Donald Trump got in. They're not charging anybody. The investigation is focused on Bowser's $61,000 trip to Dubai for a UN climate change conference in 2023. Bowser's trip was reportedly paid for by Qatar, just like Candace Owens. Earlier this year, 7 News filed a FOIA request to uncover who paid for Bowser's trip, just like the mayor of L.A. to Dubai, who was in Africa when the fire started. Weird. At a Qatar paid for event. That's weird. I wonder why somebody would do that. That's weird. Weird, huh? Anyways, through a Freedom of Information Act request, the 7 News I team has uncovered who paid for the mayor's trip to Dubai in 23, and it ended up costing a foreign country $61,930 in travel expenses, but the district has no record of how those expenses broke down for the mayor or for staff members, 7 News reported earlier this year. D.C. has no record of a donation agreement between the district and Qatar for the trip, which is required by D.C. Code. 7 News reported. By the way, Qatar, was it Qatar or the United Airlines? It was Qatar that donated a Boeing jumbo jet to the president, to the United States, to be used as Air Force One. There's about to be breaking news on that. Something about devices. The Times reported that the probe may be based on potential violations of bribery and campaign finance laws. The New York Times reported federal prosecutors may have opened a corruption investigation into Mayor Bowser of Washington, examining a foreign trip she took with members of her staff that was paid for by Qatar, according to people familiar with the inquiry. The investigation, which is being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, is underway for months and could face significant hurdles because of the known facts of the case and recent turmoil inside the Justice Department, or not. This week, the FBI agent who was leading the investigation was fired by the Trump administration for having taken part in a criminal inquiry into President Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Sorry, I have to reread that paragraph. This week, the FBI agent who was leading the cover-up of the criminal investigation into the Washington, D.C. mayor was fired by the Trump administration for dragging his feet and also taking a part in the criminal witch hunt into President Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. There's the connection. That's the connection. That's the connection to Nancy Pelosi. Why is Nancy Pelosi stepping down all of a sudden? The public corruption unit inside the prosecutor's office that would typically be responsible for pushing the case forward has also been badly damaged by a series of dismissals and resignations. It hasn't been damaged. Let me read that paragraph over. The public corruption unit inside the prosecutor's office that would typically try to cover up all this stuff for the politicians they're in favor of has been destroyed and reset by dismissals and resignations stemming from Mr. Trump's efforts to seek justice against Justice Department officials and his perceived enemies, or his real enemies. It remains unclear how the investigation of Ms. Bauer, a Democrat who has served as Washington's mayor since 2015, has advanced since it was open. But people familiar with the inquiry said it was based on a potential violations of bribery and campaign finance laws. A spokesperson for U.S. Attorney's Office. By the way, isn't that what they got? Oh, what's his name? The Santos. Isn't that what they got him on? Campaign finance. Oh yeah, it's a real deal. Why is Nancy Pelosi stepping down all of a sudden? Why is Nancy Pelosi stepping down all of a sudden? Because there's a lot more news coming out. And, well, for example, this story. Her nephew, Mr. Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president. Dim Insider says Gavin Newsom may use Prop 50 fundraising cash for potential bid. OMG uncovered. O'Keefe Media Group released an uncovered video Wednesday showing California Democrat Party official admitting to intentional gerrymandering, and describing a potential plan for Governor Gavin Newsom to redirect Proposition 50 funds into a 2028 presidential campaign war chest. The video features Ross Pike, the regional director for California Democrat Party overseeing Orange, Riverside, San Diego counties. Pike detailed how Prop 50 funds could be restructured to support Newsom's future presidential ambitions and a move that could violate state campaign finance laws. According to Pike, Newsom is not only the main financial backer of Proposition 50, but also the chief promoter, using the initiative to position himself for a White House run. When asked if Newsom would run for president, Pike replied, probably. I don't want to run for president, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't want to run for president, says Gavin Newsom, adding that he wasn't sure if he would support him. I'm skeptical. He's a Democrat. He'll support him if he gets the nomination. I'm skeptical of a Democrat from San Francisco running for president, he said, suggesting Newsom was perceived as too lefty. Pike added that Newsom has tried to appeal to moderates by taking public stances such as opposing trans-identifying boys competing in the girls' sports, moderating himself because he's seeking higher office. That's what politicians do. It doesn't matter who they are, whether it's Gavin Newsom or Adam Shifty Shift or AOC or Marjorie Taylor Greene. It makes no difference. It's what politicians do because the paid for advisors that these people get issued the standard operating procedure. So Newsom he created a super PAC to get the bill to pass so they could gerrymander. And you've got Democrats all over the place, like Nancy Pelosi, talking about, they're just nullifying what Texas. Texas adds 5. Oh, we take away 5. It's just politics. They're trying to make it sound like this passing in California, in a deep, deep, deep blue state, that by the way, the DOJ is looking into that, by the way, because they think there's a lot of fraud there. As a big obstacle to MAGA and Republicans, but they leave out that like 12 other states, like Missouri, redid their districts. They leave out that one of the things Donald Trump's wanting to do is recount the people in the United States and not count aliens, only citizens. There's a court hearing, Supreme Court hearing right now on there was a law passed, I think in the 60s or early 70s, that said you had to create your political districts based upon the ethnicity of the populations, which creates about 19 to 25 seats in the House for Democrats. And if the Supreme Court rules that you cannot create districts based upon race, only by number of citizens, which they're likely to do, and we'll probably get that about the same time we find out about tariffs, it will take away 19 seats in 2026, the Democrats. Add 19 seats. So regardless of what they do in California is irrelevant. But what do I know? I'm just some pundit on here with my Patriot mythology. That's all I am. What's this one here? Okay. Did I read this one? Yep. Read that one already. There was another one that I wanted to talk about. Oh, right here. Revolver reporting. Ron Paul and Mitch McConnell did their part to get Marxist Mondami elected. New York City didn't wake up one morning and elect a foreign Marxist mayor by accident. It didn't just happen. It was the final act in a political show that's been running for years. And it wasn't just dastardly Democrats who helped produce it. None of this could have happened without the traitorous Ron Paul and the turtle, frozen Mitch McConnell. The super polite Republican leaders who smiled, stalled, and sabotaged Trump's legal immigration reforms during the first term at a time when it would have mattered most could have actually changed the course of history. Had the two globalist stooges backed Trump's plan to cut and control illegal immigration, like, building a wall, to bring some sanity back to who enters, works, and votes in this country, New York wouldn't be where it is now, overrun, broke, proudly Marxist. Instead, they laughed it off, rolled their eyes, and told the base it was too harsh, too divisive, and particularly risky. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene just said about deporting. We can't just go around deporting willy-nilly all these people. That's not who we are. Oh, I love that statement. And now, this is where we wound up. The very people who mocked Trump's warnings built the conditions that made Mondami's rise to power possible. And mark my words, he's only getting started. Here's what the numbers say. The new electorate delivered the win. Mostly white, Como plus 14. Mostly Asian, Mondami plus 4. Mostly black, Mondami plus 26. Mostly Hispanic, Mondami plus 20. You can see it right here. As you can see, Democrats didn't win these cities with their great, lofty American first ideas. They won them with imported votes, foreign-born blocs groomed and organized by the left, now decide elections in U.S. cities that Republicans surrendered eons ago. When you look at the numbers, it's clear. Legal and illegal immigration are tearing through America's infrastructure and unraveling the fabric of the country in real time. Immigration is destroying American dream. 59% of illegal immigrants receive welfare. There are now 45 million of them. We are currently $38 trillion in debt. To make things worse, Cloward and Piven. 52% of grads can't find a job. Marriage and home ownership are at an all-time low. We can't afford to be the world's feeding trough. All these millennials and Gen Zs go, I can't find a job and I need my food stamps. All this blah. I hear there's a lot of opening in trucking. I hear they're needing some folks over there in the trucking business. I mean, I don't know. Here's what Donald Trump says about Nancy Pelosi. The retirement of Nancy Pelosi is a great thing for America. She was evil, corrupt, and only focused on bad things for the country. She was rapidly losing control of her party, and it was never coming back. And I'm very honored she impeached me twice and failed miserably twice. Nancy Pelosi is a highly overrated politician. I can feel the love in the room. Barack Hussein Obama said this: for almost 4 decades, Nancy Pelosi has served the American people and worked to make our country better. Or better. Make sure you say it right. It's not Bernie Sanders. No one has more skill at bringing people together and getting legislation passed. And I will always be grateful for her support and of the Affordable Care Act. That's Obamacare. She made us proud to be Democrats. And I will go down in history as one of the best speakers of the House. Representatives has ever had. Nancy, thank you for your leadership, your friendship. Michelle and I wish you and Paul the best in the next chamfer and a nice hammer. Oh, everybody's complaining. It's a very low sound. Well, I changed a few things. Let's try this. How's that? Is that better or worse? Better or worse? Is the crackling back or not? I don't know. I just adjusted a few things trying to help y'all out with the crackling. Here's Barack Obama with Nancy Pelosi. You remember everybody going after Charlie Kirk's wife because she hugged JD Vance. Oh my God, she's having an affair. Oh, wow, everybody, all of the usual suspects. Well, what about this? Look at that. Love, exciting and new. You see, everybody knows they're not having an affair because Barack Obama ain't into that sort of thing. Oh, Lord have mercy. Here is MSNBC breaking the news on the Brennan this morning. Breaking the news. Boy, that's really bad echo.
Well, look, the White House had confirmed the existence of this investigation. What we've learned is that it's based in South Florida, headed by the U.S. Attorney down there, and that a series of subpoenas are being prepared to go out to all kinds of people, in particular asking about how the 2016 or the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian election interference was prepared. And the thing that's deeply ironic about that to me is I covered the original John Durham investigation, and at the time I was covering the CIA, and so many CIA officers and intelligence officers had to get lawyers, had to pay for lawyers to go in and be interviewed by federal prosecutors about the work that they did in assembling this intelligence assessment. And at the end of the day, in 2023, John Durham released a massive report, and he did not criticize at all the preparation of this intelligence assessment. And this was a man appointed by Bill Barr. This was a Donald Trump appointed special counsel investigation that exhaustively examined all of this and the FBI's crossfire hurricane criminal investigation of the same ground and the question of whether the Trump campaign had colluded with Russia. And no major figure was charged with wrongdoing. And now this Justice Department wants to look at all of this again. And, whether they ever file criminal charges, it's going to cause people to have to hire lawyers, to have to go before grand juries, to have to provide records. It's a lot of pain that they are prepared to impose on former government officials and others on it.
And maybe that is the point.
Oh, there's nothing to see here. Don't you know that that Bill Barr and everybody, they already looked into this. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. It's all fine. It's all fine. It's good. Why you look? That's just Bill Barr. He covered up. He's one of them. Mike Pence. He covered it up. He's one of them. Mike Pence wanted to be president. Mike Pence thought that they were going to impeach Donald Trump, remove him from office, and he'd get to be president. Mike Pence will never be president.
We've got some big news to get to you tonight on a story we've been following since the middle of October. That is when House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan alleged that former CIA Director John Brennan lied to Congress and referred him to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. And today, we've gotten reports that the DOJ is gearing up to issue multiple grand jury subpoenas relating to the DOJ's investigation into Brennan. Chairman Jordan has already said on the record that Brennan allegedly made numerous willfully and intentionally false statements of material fact that were also contradicted by records established by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence of the CIA. And the statements in question revolve around the infamous and discredited Steele dossier that helped kick off the Russia collusion hoax, which we now know was entirely unmerited. We'll keep you updated as we get more details on the possible grand jury subpoenas.
Yeah, and then there's this little video. It's bouncing around the subject a little bit, but did y'all see this? So Donald Trump's been blowing up the Venezuelan boats. There's rumors of war and all this other stuff. The the leading candidate to run against the current president of Mexico was just assassinated at his home in front of everybody, in front of God and everybody, shot in the head. And the president of Mexico, a couple days later, comes out and says this.
Read the translation.
Regresar a la guerra contra el narco no es opción. No es opción. Primero, porque está fuera del marco de la ley. Todos estos de la derecha que se llenan la boca de las palabras Estado de Derecho y defienden la guerra contra el narco. Pues la guerra contra el narco está fuera de la ley, porque como lo dije o lo he dicho en varias ocasiones, es permiso para matar, sin ningún juicio. Y eso en México nadie o muy poquitos están de acuerdo. Está fuera del marco de la ley. Y segundo, no sirvió de nada más que para aumentar los homicidios en México y el nivel de violencia. Entonces, estos llamados autoritarios, porque son autoritarios, es ir hacia el fascismo.
So what did she just say? She said, no, we're not going to go after the narco terrorists in Mexico because that would be outside of our law. They have the legal right to do what they're doing. And I'm not going to go after them in any way. You hear me, narco terrorists? Please don't assassinate me. Going after the narco terrorism, that's fascism. Now, mind you, 50 of her competitors for president were executed during the campaign for her to become president. So, you know, just true to form of who these people are. Yeah, that's going to get ugly. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to fiddle around and we're going to find out how many of these politicians in the United States of America have been bought and paid for by the narco terrorists, and that we're going to find that out before the next election. Listen to this.
I owe you an answer on why it is I'm standing here today asking to extend something that was temporary. And here's the reason. We did fail to bring down the cost of health care.
That's a Democrat talking about Obamacare, saying it failed to bring down the cost of health care. I mean, but see, here's the problem. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was never intended to bring down the price. It was intended to destroy the system we had and lead to single payer. That was its intention. Don't you remember when Obamacare first passed that if you didn't have insurance, they were going to fine the ever-living crap out of you? Don't you remember that? Yeah, Obamacare was designed. Obamacare was designed to destroy the healthcare system so they could get to single payer. That's what they want. Why? Because they're communists. You control the healthcare. They've already got the money. They already control the banks. All the banks are controlled. Now you get the health care, and then you get the food. And they own you, and you are no longer free. You are a slave. This is the Supreme Court just gave Donald Trump a power, according to MSNBC. And we're going to talk about it.
News out of Washington, the Supreme Court will allow the Trump administration to deny transgender and non-binary Americans passports that reflect the sex designation of their choosing. The decision was 6-3 with Justices Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor dissenting. It pauses a lower court ruling that blocked the administration's policy.
So what are we talking about here? The Supreme Court said that the president can put male and female only on visas from your birth certificate. They're saying that the Supreme Court has allowed. The Supreme Court does not allow the president of the United States of America, whoever sits in that seat, to do anything at all, ever. The Supreme Court has no authority to allow the president. The Constitution of the United States of America, which is in this book, along with all the other documents, the Constitution of the United States of America dictates what the president can do and cannot do. The Supreme Court can only affirm or not affirm that it's a presidential power. The Supreme Court has no authority over the president, equal but separate branches. Period. That's it. And every time that these Democrats and the Republicans and all in the media say the Supreme Court has given the president the power, the Supreme Court gives nothing. It's either constitutional or ain't. That's the only thing they can decide. That's it. I don't care. These people are just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm pushing back against it because that's what I'm doing here. Here is, speaking of shutdowns, you know, these people, they speaketh with forked tongue. Here's a King Jeffries in 21 talking about shutdowns. Or should I say, King Jeffries.
Congressman, you tweeted yesterday that the filibuster is a racially tinged artifact of the way of progress.
High priority issues for the American people that are being held up in the Senate right now because of the presence of the filibusters are allowed to block progress for the majority of the American people. And that's something that has to change. Filibuster was first deployed by Senator Calhoun in the run-up to the Civil War to try to protect white supremacy. Modern form, it was really deployed in the early part of the 20th century to stop civil rights legislation, including anti-lynching legislation that passed the House of Representatives in the early Senate filibuster. And that is part of the legacy of the absence of progress that we're still living with to
So there's a King Jeffrey calling the filibuster as a racist leftover from the Jim Crow era because he's an idiot. I mean, come on, man. Really? There was another post here that I wanted to share, and I want to make sure that I get to it. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Down here. Way down here. Nancy Pelosi, you know. So she gives a little speech here. Here she is. Here's Nancy Pelosi on her retirement.
I speak for the people of San Francisco. I have truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I've always honored the song of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, the anthem of our city. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative. As we go forward, my message to the city I love is this. San Francisco, know your power. We have made history. We have made progress. has led the way, participants in our democracy, and fighting for the American ideals we hold dear.
I don't know what the deal is with the sound. I have no control over it, and on my end, it sounds fine. So it's something on the Rumble end. I don't know what to tell you. It could be Rumble, but it still sounds good on my end. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. I'm looking around here. Let me see if I can modify something. Nope. No, it's not on my end. There's nothing I can do about it. So I apologize. Sometimes things don't work out, when you're using the interwebs. And it's just the way it is. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. So Nancy Pelosi is stepping down, and she feels so good about it. Here is Paul Ryan. We talked about him earlier. While we rarely agree on policy, I have deep admiration for Speaker Pelosi's lifetime of public service and the trail for female lawmakers, protected the House as an institution. Congratulations to Nancy on your storied career. Notice he turned off comments there because, well, you see that he is the poster child. He is the poster child for Uniparty, for the Uniparty. It's him that's the poster child. Facebook too, we're having solar storms. I could be that. Maybe we'll all go back to the Stone Age. That'll be fun. I don't know. They said we could see the aurora last night, but I didn't look. Here's some more from Nancy. Let's play it again with sound. Let's play it again with sound. There's Nancy Pelosi being chucked in the trash. Yeah, that's fun. Good time. Good times. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but so I was talking about Candace Owens and pointing out, she is number one right now in podcasts all over. It is very profitable to do what she's doing. Very profitable. And I'm not going to do that. I thought about this a lot. What's going on? It's not about supporting the Jews. It's about doing what God's called me to do. And this blind support, like all the Democrats, I'm going to go visit Jerusalem if I get elected mayor. If I was standing up there, I wouldn't have said I was going to Jerusalem. I have no desire. I know Aaron's trying to get me to go with him after all this is said and done. Maybe in the future, but right now I have no desire to go there. It just the problem is like I pointed out, it isn't about Israel. It isn't about their politics. It isn't even about what's going on over there in Palestine. It's about the taking over of the world with jihad. These people It is intentional what they're doing. And I'm trying to put into words what I'm trying to say here, because I have not yet heard Candace Owens talk about Islam. In all the things that all the conspiracy theories, all the stuff that she's doing, I haven't heard her mention Islam one time, not one time. And I have to ask what her opinion is of Islam. She seems to be praising Zoltran, seems to be praising him. And anybody who's supposedly conservative Christian, right, that's praising Islam, that isn't speaking up against Islam, because let me tell you something. You want to know where the Antichrist is going to come from? It's going to come from there. Is even my voice chopping up? Is it just the video I'm playing? Just wondering, because it's kind of getting on my nerves. And like I said, I can't hear it, so I don't know what's happening on your end. If you can even hear me at all, I don't know. Oh, I'm watching the video. It's choppy. Yeah, that's definitely something, because it seems to be working. Seems to be working really fine where I'm at, but I don't know. Well, Rumble, you need to get your act together. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am not going to continue the mess. It is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and end the show, and we'll take a break. It's the weekend. We'll go into the weekend. We'll have a good time. Those of you watching on other channels may have, I can't see your comments, so I don't know. May have it may be better for you. I don't know. But right now on Rumble, where most of my people have problems. So, end the show. See you all Monday. Take a deep breath. Enjoy the weekend. Don't be getting on no flights, because there might not be any. You guys have a great day.